I'm sorry, we had a little technical issue. I know not to push that button again. All right, so what I was talking about with this number right here is that, okay, what we're going to look at is your 6 in the thousands place and this 6 is in the 10,000s place. So if you were to put these numbers right beside each other, like the 6s, you can see that the 6 right here is to the right of this 6. It's a place, okay? It's in the 10,000s place. So that means that the 6 in 69,000 is 10 times greater or as much as the 6 in 6,000. Okay? So what does the 6, or how does the 6 in the 286,513 compare to the 6 in the 69,457? Well, it means that the 6 in 286,513 is 1/10. That means 10 times less than the 6 in 69,457. Just think about it. If you had 60,000 and you wanted to compare it to 6,000, if you take off one of those zeros, you've got the same number. Okay? So that means it's 10 times as much. Okay? So now let's move on to the next part. All right, we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to use a different number. We're going to do the 5. Okay, so I have 286,513, and we're going to do 69,457. All right, here's what I want you to do. I want you to pause the video, and I want you to try to work 1 through 4 out for me, okay? They're probably not 1 through 4 on your paper. It's probably a little bit different. But work these out, pause the screen, hit the pause button, work this out, and then hit the play, and we'll get started, okay? Hit the pause button. Okay, let's hope you hit that pause button because we're about to go over this. Okay, so we're looking at the 5s. We have the 5 right here. Now, hopefully, you said that 5 is in the, that's right, the hundreds place. And it's worth 500. All right, let's go to the next number, the 69,457. Hopefully, and I know you did it because y'all are really smart, the 5 is worth, what's in the tens place, so it's going to be worth 50. All right, now, if you have 500, then you have 50. What's greater? Would you rather have $500 or $50? Myself, I'd like to have $500. So the greatest value with the 5 is going to be the one that equals 500. That is 286,513. By how many times? It says right here. How does the value in the 5 in 286,513 compare to the value in 69,457? Well, remember, if the number is to the right, like right here, let's say this 6 was a 5, that means that would have been 10 times greater. But if it's to the left, it means it's 1/10 that number. So this 5 is in the hundreds place, this 5 is in the tens place. So that means that the 5 in 256,513 has a value that is 10 times greater than the 5 in 69,457 because the 5 in the first number is to the right, so it's this way. So it's going to be 10 times greater than this. Okay? Let's go to the next part. All right, the next portion is that you need to write the number 8 and 179 thousandths in the place value below this question. So go ahead and fill in that place value chart. Go ahead, fill it out. It's okay. Take your pencil. 8.179. Okay, put it in. Now, if you did it correctly, which I hope you have, it should look like this. The 8 should be in the ones place. So that means it has a value of 8. 8 whole, it's a whole number 8. The 1 is in the tenths, the THS at the end. The 1 is in the tenths place. So that means it has a value of 1/10. Not even a whole number, it's a tenth of it. It's kind of like if you were to think of it as money, it would be worth 10 cents because 10 dimes makes $1. Okay? Now, in the hundredths place, we have the 7. So that means it's 7 hundredths. Now, if we're going to go along with the money idea, that means you'd like have 7 pennies. Okay? You have 7 pennies. That means you got to have a whole lot more to make 100. Okay? So a tenth is greater than a hundredth. Okay? Because it takes 10 tenths to make one whole, and it takes 100 hundredths to make a whole. Just to give you an idea what that's going to look like, I have my box. That means that if we were to look, and I know y'all know what these are because you should have used them in your other grades. If we look at the base 10 cubes, this is a rod. Okay? Okay, if you can see, this rod has 10 cubes in it. Okay? So this is 1/10. Okay? 1/10. I could take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, wait, we'll just do this. So I can take 10 of these right here. I'm clicking them together. They're supposed to fit. And you have one whole. So that's like a whole number. So this is 1/10. Okay, that's the value of that 1/10. And the value of the 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, that will never happen again, is this one little cube. That's the hundredths, okay? So that has 7 of these, okay? You have 7 hundredths. So you would stack these up. Oops, sorry. You'd stack these up and you'd have 7 lined up. So you have 7 hundredths. So, as you can look, 1/10 is greater than 7 hundredths. Okay? 1/10 is greater than 7 hundredths. But then you're like, well, what about the 9? Well, the 9, believe it or not, is in the thousandths place. And this is what we like to call, it's going to come out of the bag. This is a cube. Okay? The cube has 10 flats. And a flat equals 100. Okay? Has 10 flats. So 10 times 10 is 100. Okay? It has 10 of these rods for each flat. Okay? So that's a lot of math. Okay? So you would have, so you got 100 in here. 100 times 10 is 1,000. Okay? So you actually have 1,000 little cubes. You have 1,000 of these all stacked up. So what 9 thousandths means is this, it's only 9 of them. So it's be like taking this whole line right here. So 9 of these out of the whole thousands. You got a lot to make up for. Okay? So that's what that means in these numbers, what we're talking about. So let's look at this. We have 8 and 179 thousandths. Now I'll tell you this, the only time you are allowed to say and when you say a number is when you're referring to a decimal. Now let me show you what the 8 would look like. Just to give you an idea. You would have 8 of these, the little flats. This is a 1, that's a whole 1, a whole 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you have 8 of these whole flats. That would represent the 8. Okay. Now, what is the name of the place where the 9's in? Well, if you look back at your place value chart, you can see that the 9 is under the, if you said thousandths place, you got it right. So it's under the thousandths place. Now, what exactly is the value of it? Well, the value is 9 thousandths. Now, you can write that one of two ways. You can write it 0.009, or since it's 9 thousandths, that means the same thing as saying 9 over 1,000. Okay, let's look at the 7. The 7, what place value is it in? You're very smart, you know this. It's in the hundredths place, and I know y'all said that. So what's the value of the 7? If the 9 is worth 9 thousandths, okay, and the 7's in the hundredths place, that means it should be worth, you got that right, 7 hundredths, which means 7 over 100. And I'm going to move my picture over here for right now. Okay, and the 1, if we keep this pattern going, the place value of the 1 is 1. It's in the tens place, and its value is 1/10, or 1 over 10, because it's 1/10. So if you were to say these fractions, it would be 9 thousandths, 7 hundredths, 1/10. Okay? You got that written down? Let's go on to the next one. Now, just like I said, you have your 1 is your whole flat. Okay, you have a flat. That equals one whole number. This little rod is worth tenths. Okay, it takes 10 of these to make one of these. Just to prove it, see, you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it takes 10 rods, this one and this one, to make the 100. And the little cube right here is 100ths. So let's think about it. If it takes 10 tenths to make the one whole, how many hundredths should it take to make the one flat? Think. That's right, 100. So it takes 100 of these little beauties right here to make one little flat. So remember that. Okay, so we're going to look at this with your base 10 blocks. Now, just like I said before, the flats, you're going to hear them called flats. You have a cube, which is 1,000, a flat, which is 100, which equals 1, and this is stuck. And then you have the rods, which are worth 10, and you have the cubes, which are worth 1, or, sorry, hundredths. Okay, so let's look at 8. So the 8 whole number should have 8 flats. Okay, 8 flats makes 8. Okay, now let's think. How many rods would I need for 8 tenths? If each rod represents 1/10, how many rods do I need for 8 tenths? That's right. I would need 8 of them. Okay, now let's keep this going. How many unit cubes would I need for 8 hundredths? Okay, if I needed 8 flats for 8 rods for 8 tenths, how many cubes would I need for 8 hundredths? That's right, 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is what these rods represent, and the cubes and the flats. So if you ever have these, that's what it meant. That's what it means. All right, now let's look at this. And I made a little mistake, and you'll see that We all make mistakes. It's fine. We have the value place on number 12. Don't worry about the value. We're just worrying about the place, okay? So let's look at number 12, letter A. You have 800s. 800s, okay? That means 8 of these little cubes. What is the place value of the 8 in 800s? That's right. It's hundreds. And just by saying 800s, you know the value. The value is 800s. It's 8 little cubes. Okay? We have 8 tenths. So what's the value of 8 tenths? The value of the 8 is, or not the value, but the place is the tenths. Now, how are these two numbers related? Now, this is one of the big things that we're going to go deeper into in the 5th grade. You need to be able to tell me that the 10 in the hundreds place is related to the 8 in the tens place. You need to be able to tell me verbally and written how they're related. So let's remember, we know that if a number, okay, if we have the numbers written out, if you go to the, well, it's kind of, if the number is beside it, okay, to the right, over here, it's really weird, but it's to the left. It's 1/10, okay? So right now, this 8 in 800s, what is the value of it? We said it was 800s, okay? Now we know that 800s is less than 8 tenths, but you need to know by how much. And it's related because the 800s is 1/10 the value of the 8 tenths. Now, honestly, when I talk about the numbers and I talk about the relationship, I know it said when the numbers go to the right, it's bigger, but when we look at it and when we see it, I find it's easier that you understand that, like this number right here and this number right here. If you look at it, okay, you're saying that this 8, okay, is to the right of this 8. All right. So basically, it's the opposite of what the main thing says. And I know that's confusing. And I'm trying to explain it as best as I can. But if you need to think of it this way, it's fine. Just remember that you do it this way. And this is how my brain works. I look at it and I say, okay, this 8 right here is to the right of this 8. So I know that it's going to be less. It's going to mean less. It's going to be less of a value. It's kind of like, would you rather have 80 cents or 8 cents? I'd rather have the 80. So I know that this number is 10 times less than this number. Now, how is that related? Now, let's look right here. 800s. If I were to multiply that by 10, that means if I were to increase the value 10 times, the answer is 8 tenths. Now, if I was to take that very 8 tenths and divide it by 10, I get 8 hundredths. See? So every time we move that decimal, okay, you're either increasing the number by the value of 10 or you're decreasing it by a value of 10 or 1/10. Okay, the same thing for the 7. So let's look at your 7. What place is the 7 in 7.0? What is the place of the 7? If you were to look in your place value chart, if you were to put that 7 in a place value chart, where would it fall? That's right, it's in the ones place, okay? Because the 7 falls in the ones place. Now, if we look at the 7 tenths, what place value is the 7 in? Okay, you have 8 tenths. I'm sorry, you have 7 tenths. They use 8. It's in the tenths place. Now, let's think about this. How are these numbers related? look at it. I have a 7.0 and then I have a 0.7. Now this 7 is right here and this one's down here. Okay, so that means that this 7 in 7.0 is 10 times larger than the 7 in the tens place. Okay, because it is. Because you're moving to the right. Okay, you're moving that decimal over. So 7 is 10 times greater than 7 tenths. If we look at this, 7 divided by 10 is 7 tenths. And 7 tenths times 10 is 7. It kind of cancels each other out. So 7 is 10 times larger than 7 tenths. All right, now there are 4 questions, 4 or 5 underneath this. What I want you to do is I want you to try to work these out. Don't worry about the value, just do the place. Okay? Tell me what place value they're in. Now, I'm going to come back with another video with the answers. I want you to try to do this before you watch my other video. Okay? Try it. Now, if you have any questions, please, you can email me, riley.moore@lcss.us, and I will try to clear up any confusion or anything with this. And I know I may have confused or put my foot in my mouth when I reversed about the right and the left, but that's just how my mind works. And I've found that with history, that most of the kids can relate to the decimal moving rather the numbers moving. So that's why I did that. And if that confuses you, sorry, just go back to the original way. But this may be a little easier for you. So right now I want you to look at the last few problems on this page and give me the place value of each of those numbers. Okay? I know you can do it. Just try your best. And I'll come back here in a few minutes with the answer video. Thank you for listening and have a good day.